All right, we just started recording. Today we're going to talk about understanding the lease. My name is Mark Pinilla. I am with Kai's Property Management, and we are the property management arm of the Kai's company, part of Family of Services. Please make sure you turn off your phones, mute your phone as well to make sure you're not talking. Some people like to talk and have conversations while I'm teaching. And it interrupts the rest of the class. So we want to make sure that we respect everybody. Next class is next Monday, 18th of September. Service and emotional support animals at 2 o'clock. The same information that you used to log into Zoom today will be used that day, so nothing changes. So please keep that information up for yourself, and we'll pass it out through WhatsApp and email to all the parties that want to join us. Please keep in mind that you're also welcome to invite other people from other branches or other companies to take this class, because it's a very important class. I feel that the lease is the most misunderstood contract of all of them, and probably one of the most important because there's so many transactions that happen with leases. And if you want to be a good and professional realtor, this is a great way to learn. I will find a way to post a training and then make sure that everybody gets it through either the WhatsApp or through the email to your office. Okay. Agent links, you guys can scan this code. You can save my information on your phone screen or desktop of the screen of the phone. So you guys can have all the information, all the websites, screening, tenant credit boost, everything you can think of will be on that link, and you can have it on your phone if you want to save it to your phone that way. There'll be a nice little icon on your screen like another application. If not, then you can take a picture of all these websites that are also included in that QR code. Somebody's speaking muffled. I can't understand them. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Beatriz, I think you're speaking, but I can't make out what you're saying. It's all muffled. Can you write it in the chat, please? Because unfortunately you sound like Charlie Brown. I don't understand what you're saying. Please write it on the chat, Beatriz. No. Okay. So let's talk about a couple of the services that we offer so that all of you know. Oops, I moved it by accident. Tenant screening, myrentalscreening.com. We cover criminal OFAC, which is a terrorist watch list, liens, judgments, and evictions, the full credit report, identity verifications. It's $50 a person. We say 24 to 40 hours. If you guys can put in the chat how fast you guys actually get it, but I've heard as fast as 10 minutes, usually within an hour. So it's very, very quick. A great way to get the information to you, and a great way to protect yourself, because you can use this as your screening process and qualification process so that we're consistent. Demir, if you can, please put your phone on mute. Or I can do it, maybe mute. All right. Tenant credit boost. For those of you who want to make your renters become buyers, this is a great way to do this by increasing their credit score by reporting their rental payments. Can you imagine reporting a $2,000, $2,500, $3,000 rental payment on time every month, improving the credit score of your tenants? They don't have to be a Kai's Property Management tenant. They're just a person. You can tell your mother in California if you want. Everybody can use it, and they can pay up to $65 to go back 2 years. And if the landlord works with them, they can report the last 2 years and improve the credit in that fashion as well. Equifax and TransUnion both get that information. Imagine taking somebody from a 690 to a 740. That's going to give them more buying options, less money down, better interest rate. I think your tenants will love you if you can get them into a property where they have a fixed rent, or a fixed payment, as opposed to an increasing rent payment. So you become a hero. Move out and move in inspections. We'll do the move in and move out of the tenants while the owners are there. This is an a la carte item, so that means that the only thing we'll be doing for them is the move in and move out video, which we do automatically for all of our clients. But these owners have decided not to use us for the management service on a month-to-month basis, but we will certainly do this. I think I've done about 5 of these in total. It's not a very big or highly used option, but nobody's ever called me back to do the move out. So it's a good money maker, but tell your owners to make sure they call us when the tenant moves out, unless the tenants haven't moved out, and maybe that's why we haven't got called. All right, so today we're going to be talking about the lease. The lease primarily that we're going to be looking at is the condo lease. There is a difference between a condo and a single family home. Please make sure that when you're making leases, you do talk with the association and you make sure that you get the right lease for the right place. We don't want to be putting the wrong lease for the wrong property. Most of the time, like I say, nothing happens until something happens. But it's important that you make sure that you have the right lease. If something were to happen and it goes to court, you're not going to look like the bad guy by having the wrong lease in place. And actually, we have Seal on the chat. Seal, are you able to speak for a minute? Because you might be able to help me answer this question.
Sure, what is it, sweetie?
So is there a way to look at a tax roll and know if it's going to be a condo or a single family home?
Yes, it
Okay.
would be in the legal description.
Okay, in the legal description.
Under the legal, it would have a lot and a block. It's a single family.
Okay.
And if it's a condo, it's the condo by the legal description of a condo is completely different than a single family, which is a lot and block.
Lot and block.
Okay.
So
it would be an undivided interest for the condo. So when you're looking at your tax roll, you'll know that from the get-go.
perfect. That's what I thought, but I wanted to confirm because we had this issue on Friday. We did a move in, and it was a condo lease with a lot and block, we believe. I have to go now and look at the tax roll. Someone told me the same thing you said, but I wasn't sure I understood it. So thank you very much. I greatly appreciate your support.
My pleasure.
Okay, so let's see. Tanya, I think she has her mic open. Well, I turned it off, I think. What about TH? What is lot and block? So lot and block basically means, from what I understand, it is a certain block within a land, a square, if you will, a border, dividing up the different lots of a property. So my lot is about 5,000 square feet. Someone else's lot might be 10,000 square feet, but it's the actual land that the owner owns for that single family home or farm, or in a condo association, it's a bigger lot. But let's say, for example, a community might have 300 properties. Those 300 properties own 1/300th of that lot together. So everybody owns the lot, but they don't own one specific area of the lot. They all have one lot in common for 300 people. So that would be like a condo association, a building. The building sits on one big lot, but everybody owns a portion.
And it would say an undivided interest in and two.
In undivided interest in two, exactly. Okay. In common elements, like Mari Valle says there, perfect. So that's a good way to understand the difference between the two. So today, like I said, the lease that we're looking at is mainly the condo lease. There are some differences that we're going to talk about today, and I will point them out. This class is not meant to go over every single line in the contract. This lease is to go over the main points where people struggle, make mistakes, or the big doozies that we've seen in the almost 8 years that I've worked with Kai's Property Management, because my day-to-day is dealing with the leases and explaining it to owners and tenants. And so that's why this class arrived over 6 years ago when we started this. So if you look here, my first part is who can change the contract. And if you see the highlighted line, and you'll have 20-year veterans who say, I never noticed that. It says only a lawyer can change it. This lease was designed for you to fill in the blanks only. Now, I will tell you, the state will give you a new home. The new home will not have a view. It'll be a 6x6 room, and you'll get 3 square meals, and you might also get some fines and probation. So please do not practice law. It's a 3rd-degree felony. It also a $5,000 fine, and also in some cases imprisonment. I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm trying to make you understand that you're not attorneys and you shouldn't be practicing law by crossing things in and adding things. The idea here is to fill in the blanks only. Okay. Now, some people like to use this name of owner as it appears in the deed. They do that usually in the contract to lease. It's very easy to go to miami-dade.gov, which I'm going to show you guys how to do here today. For those of you who don't know. .gov. Scroll down to property search. Property search. And we're going to put an address. And we're actually going to look at 2 different properties. I can pull up a single family home. This happens to be mine because I have my address memorized very easily. And this is my lot, which is 5,000 square feet approximately. We can see right here, 5,063. Okay. And you can see all the information and you can see all the owners. But the way that we're going to see the ownership to make sure that it's correct is we're going to go to the deed. We want to make sure that everything that we put in the lease copies the deed, because the deed is what's actually registered in the state with regards to who owns the property. So you'll see here sales information. It'll say all the buyers, and we click right here. It'll take you to a separate section for official records, and the DEE stands for deed. And we'll see the document image. And this is the actual paperwork that we signed and went through when we bought the property, the approval, everything that pertains to our property is right here, giving my wife and I, the boss, my wife, the boss, right? The ownership of this property through this deed. So when we copy the information into a lease, we want to copy these names as they appear here. I have seen where Miami-Dade forgot to put a person in. I have seen the old form simplicity, which is like transaction desk, not pull in my wife's name, for example, and only put me. And the last thing that you want to do is create a lease that doesn't have all parties who are supposed to sign and who have the right to decide whether or not the property gets rented out and given to somebody to reside in. So I'll give you a good example. Husband and wife, they own the property together, just like my wife and I. We get in a fight and I'm sneaky and I don't want my wife to know that I'm making money in the property and I rent it out without her name on the lease. She can get very upset and she can sue me and she can sue the agent for renting out the property, not including all owners of the property. So make sure that you get all owners as listed in the deed.
And you see the lot and block right there.
And we see a lot. Oh, yes. Let me open that back up again.
Yeah.
I was going to go to the other section, but that's fine.
Yeah, you just want to show them, see lot, block. It's a platted subdivision.
Right here it says lot and block so that we know that this is
You know, it's single family.
single family home. So let's go back for a second. And I'm going to pull up an address. I know this address because it was my old address 6 years ago. And when you go to the legal description, it says Las Brisas condo. Here it very clearly says condo. Unfortunately, the one that we were talking about earlier said neighborhood. But now I know that this in common elements refers to a condo association. So you will know if you need a single family home. And you see it says undivided. This is showing that 54 people own that property, physical property, undivided, meaning they own it, but they can't claim one portion of the land to themselves. They all own the same portion. Okay, and you can see this is much bigger. This is 3 buildings with 54 units. So they can't say they own this portion of the roof is mine. No, everybody owns that portion of the roof. So thank you very much, because that's a good clarification for everybody to understand that. Now, let me see if there's any questions in common elements. No additional questions. Good. Oh, we got 24 people on the call. Welcome, everybody. So who's going to be listed on the lease? So there's 2 points of view that we're going to look at here in terms of that. We are listing agents, meaning we represent the owner, and we are tenant agents, meaning we represent the tenants. And I'm going to tell you how to view both sides. If you're the owner's representative, as the owner's representative, you want to protect the owner the most that you can. You're going to protect the owner the most that you can by listing all persons over the age of 18. Now, I want to make sure you guys understand that I use the words age over 18 is not very good in some cases. You can't use that in a screening process or in MLS. You just have to say adults. I'm clarifying here that anybody over the age of 18 is an adult. For some reason, MLS thinks that's a racial issue because now we're basing things on age. So now we just want to talk about adults. So anybody who is an adult, which we all know is 18 and over, should be on this lease. A good example of this is 4 college students going to UM or FIU, and the 4 college students all have to pay 100% of the bill, of the rent. What does that mean? If there's 4 kids on the lease and 3 of them decide
No, es que yo sé que son muchas cosas a la vez, pero la vaina es que tienes que atenderla.
Aisha, I'm muting you because you're talking while we're talking. If 3 of them leave, 1 person is stuck with the property, that 1 person has to pay 100% of the lease. So that's why I like to say it's a 400% requirement or payment by those individuals. If you get 2 kids on there and you let 2 leave, those 2 kids will say, well, I have to go. I can't afford it. I flunked out of college. UM is too expensive. Now you're in trouble. So now you have 4 people on the hook. Now let's look at the reverse or the opposite side, which is the tenant side. We want to have the tenants, and we can make an offer how the tenants want. The tenants say, no, I just want myself and my husband. Perfect. You send it like that. If the owner comes back and says, I want all 4 kids because they happen to work with me, and I said, no, we want all the kids over 18 and we want the parents too, everybody goes on there. Remember that this creates an obligation for every adult to pay. As an owner, I'll give you a good example. If the parents pass away and you have an 18-year-old child on the lease, the owner could be a good owner or he could be a bad owner, in the sense that he could say, I want the kid to pay all the funds. The bad owner, right? Because he's not helping a family that had a bad situation. He could be a good owner and say, you know what? They have a security deposit. I'll give him 30 days or a month to get out if he can't pay. And he can go without penalty. And we can use a portion of the security deposit to pay for the month that he's there. And that way nothing comes out of pocket. And you help out the person. And that's you and your owner working together to be good people or empathetic to the situation that happened in hand. This is mainly to protect those people who want to be jerks, bad tenants, tenants who work the system. And when they work the system, we want to make sure that we hold everybody accountable to the system, because that's what's fair. Okay, let me see in common elements. So nobody has any questions about this portion here in terms of naming everybody? No. Okay, good. Either I'm really doing a really good job of explaining it, or you guys are really, really sleeping. All right, getting all the information. This is a pet peeve of mine. I obviously get a lot of leases. I manage about 250 properties, and obviously there's turnover, tenants who come and go because of life or whatever reason it may be. So we get to see the tenants come and go. You as realtors, you have to remember that your job is to procure, obtain, find a tenant for the owner. And when you do that, and you do the move-in, and you created the contract, your job is done. But if you don't put names on here, what's going to happen is the tenant is going to call you and say, I don't know the phone number to the homeowner, and my AC is not working, and you get pulled in. or vice versa, you're the tenant's agent, you didn't make sure that the landlord's information was there because the realtor didn't want to give the tenants or the owner's information. And so now they're calling you because their AC is not working and you get pulled in too. And these types of things create problems for you because now you're working more, you're not getting paid for the work that you're doing. I know you want to be a great person and a very helpful person, but these things pull you into eventually, in some cases, a legal process that you don't want to be involved in. So what we're asking is simply for you to do your job, which is put in the name and the phone number, the email and the phone number of the owner and the tenant when you receive this. As a listing agent, I will tell you that I changed the way that I did DocuSigns. And while it takes me a little bit more work to do in the front end, at the end of the day, it makes my job much easier. If you send a lease that is to be signed by the tenants to the agent will send it and they'll get it signed. You'll get back a PDF. When you get back the PDF, then you have to load it into Transaction Desk. You have to put in all the fields to fill in for the owner, and then you have to make sure that he signs all the areas, and that takes more time. I'm going to tell you my process because this is how I control my transaction. I create multiple signers. If I'm the listing agent, I will send the first signing to the agent of the tenants. The agent of the tenants will sign the page that he says that he speaks English and represents the people, or I'll make him sign the area that talks about lead paint, or I'll make him sign the part that says about the lead pamphlet area. And if nothing else, I'll just find a place for him to sign. It doesn't matter, or her, but there's somewhere for them to initial or a signature. And I tell the agent, Mr. Agent or Mrs. Agent, this lease is going to go to you. The minute you approve it, it will go to your tenants. If you do not approve it for whatever reason, because there's something that you disagree with, you let me know, we can change it, and we'll start the process again, and I'll send it to you. The minute you sign, your two renters or tenants will sign it. Once they complete signing those two tenants, then the two tenants it'll be sent off to the owner. If there's two owners, the two owners will sign it, and then me, Mark, property manager and or realtor, will sign it as the last party. That means there's 4 sections: realtor for the tenant, tenants, owners, and then myself. And I control every single signing section to make sure nothing is missed. If the tenant doesn't put his phone number in, the phone number will not go there. If the tenant doesn't put the email in there, the email will not go there, but they can't move forward because the signing won't be completed. On top of that, if you've done the screening process with us, you will have the tenant's information. So there's no reason for you not to have the tenant's phone number and email address on there already. Okay, let's see. Any questions so far before I start the next section? Gaisha, no?
Hi, Mark.
Yes, hello.
Lydia.
Hi, Lydia.
How are you? Mark, my question is, like, either being representing the owner or the tenant. I run into a situation where I received an offer under the name of a corporation.
Uh-huh.
So obviously the landlord was hesitant about accepting an offer from a corporation, from either an LLC or an Inc. So what will be your recommendation to handle that? What will be, do we include then the legal representative? Do we include the owner? What will be your recommendation when we have that case?
So first off, a corporation by any legal standard within the United States is basically a fictitious or an artificial person, right? So
Correct.
in itself, it's like talking to a person and that represents a person. And you're going to have to see if economically, just like you would an individual person, that company can pay for rent. Okay.
Mhm.
You have the second portion of it is who represents that corporation. In
Mhm.
LLCs, much like when you do closings, the companies or the title company will be asking who is the person who can legally sign on behalf of the LLC. And usually, I can't remember the name of it right now, but there is a document that states who's in charge of signing for the LLC.
It would be the managing member
Correct.
usually.
Managing member.
the
Thank you very much. So if there's no
Mhm.
managing member decision made by the LLC, then all parties have to sign, much like a corporation may have to sign. So make sure you find out who that managing person is to be able to make that signature. I would say that person, whoever the managing person is, has to do the application process, but that would be me saying that. There is no rule here. The rule is what the
Okay.
owner feels is comfortable. And you have to explain to the owner that you're the one that has to accept somebody to come into your 3, 4, 5, $1 million property, whatever it may be.
Mhm.
You feel comfortable with this person living there. If they don't, and they don't want to give the information that the owner wants, then they may not be the right people to rent. Then you have
Okay.
to figure out who's going to be staying there. Is the corporation renting it for multiple people? For example, there are people that say, I want to rent it for people who are going to be here for a year from Spain. I had that happen. They worked at an Argentinian restaurant, The Knife. I don't know if it's Argentinian, but The Knife. And the owners brought people in to work for a year from Spain. There's a company that might say, we have internships. Zen, I'm sorry, please make sure you're on mute. We have internships for people who come
Mhm.
at a time. Who's going to be staying in the property, and you want to make sure that you get them approved. Your biggest problem
Correct.
will be the association.
Right.
Will the association allow multiple people to come in that way? So there's a lot of moving parts with that. There isn't necessarily a right way or wrong way. It all depends on what you're allowed to do and what the owner feels comfortable doing. I hope that
Mark, I've
answers your
seen,
question.
I've seen on single families, because a homeowners association, they usually don't want the multiple tenants going around and around and around. But on larger homes with corporate clients, and they couldn't give, it wasn't public companies, what they ask, and we're not here to say what they should ask for, but I've seen where lawyers for the landlord have asked for a personal guarantee. So I would sign as president of the company and a personal guarantee. And then I say to the landlord, why the hell would you be concerned? He's got a personal guarantee and he's secure. But that's one of the solutions I've seen in my old age.
Which
Okay.
is essentially what we do with commercial leases, right? They make
Right.
a commercial lease,
Mhm.
personally responsible. American Express, even if you have a business, you are
Right.
personally responsible for the
Personal guarantee.
American Express. Thank you, Seal. Years of experience,
Great.
Seal. She's really 20 years old, but she has 60 years of experience.
Thank you.
That's true.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, Tanya.
In that case that you have an LLC renting an apartment and you're going to do the tenant screening, how do you go about it?
Well, you're going to screen the people who are going to be in the property. You're not going to screen the company.
Okay.
So you screen either the president or the managing person, whoever it is who's going to be in charge, because
For the
potentially
payments,
the property, right? Potentially,
Occupants.
yeah, but
the
whoever live
occupants.
there, that's who you want to screen.
So even though it's being rented by the LLC and the LLC is paying, you still have to screen the people that are living it?
Yes,
Okay.
unless
Thank
the owner says no.
Yeah.
There's a gentleman who rents out in Miami Springs. He has a company that rents out to pilots who use a room with bunk beds and share and save stuff so that when they come into town, they don't have to bring a bag because they already got all their stuff. Their shaving equipment, their, whatever you can think of, extra socks, shoes, clothing, and they do their laundry when they're in town and they leave their stuff clean and they go back to the home. And then they come back and they rent out basically a little room. It's like an Airbnb for pilots. And the owner allowed it. And Miami Springs doesn't have an association, so it's very easy for them to do that. So I think that we missed the boat in the fact that we want to be in charge and make decisions. You present all the options to the owner and allow the owner to make a decision, which is what I call an educated decision. So tell your owner, you can do this, you can do that, you can't do this, the association will or will not allow it. And then let them decide, because the minute you start doing those things, it becomes very difficult for you when the owner doesn't like something that happened and you're the one that said you should do it. Okay,
Get it.
okay, so Tanya, have you ever taken my class, Tanya?
Yes,
Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Let me see.
at the office, actually, when we used to do it in the office.
Yeah, I want to find somebody who hasn't taken my class, maybe.
Hello, hello. I have also a question. May
Okay,
I
yes,
ask?
Samir?
Yeah, maybe I was a bit late by joining. So my question is about the non-lawyer disclosure.
Non-lawyer
Ah.
disclosures, okay?
Yeah, the beginning of the,
Yeah,
agreement.
I don't know that I
So,
have it here, yes.
okay. My question is, who is filling that part? The other party who is the landlord or landlord's realtor or
The
me?
landlord's agent is filling out a lease in most cases. And when he
Okay.
fills out the lease, he's saying that he's not an attorney.
Yes. So
I-
what about our side? How can we make sure that it will protect also our side, me and my client?
Okay, but what side are you talking about? Are you talking about the tenant side?
Because it says, okay, my client doesn't know English, cannot read English or reads English. So the other party feels that part for the landlord side. But let's say my client also cannot speak English. How
Okay,
can I make sure that I will be protected? So just getting her initiative.
the problem is that the
or what?
protection here is for the person filling out the document. You didn't fill out the document as a realtor. So
Okay.
it doesn't apply to you. In terms of your tenants, that's a very good question. And it's a question of protocol. I just explained to you guys how my protocol is for signatures, and I put the tenant signatures there that they understand English. If they don't want to sign because they don't understand English, then I can change it. But most agents don't worry about that page. They actually leave it off. And one day it may come to haunt them. So I would encourage the tenants to sign whether or not they speak English and understand what they read. You have to be very careful though, because as an agent, whether you're on the tenant side or the owner side, your job is not to translate or what's the best way, detail out what the document says. You're supposed to give very broad strokes. This page talks about how much rent you pay, $1,500. It says it's a late fee. It says that the NSF check is going to be this much. It's very broad strokes. You're not going word for word and detailing what those paragraphs say, because then you're practicing law.
Melissa and Eliza. And he's the grandson of a rich board member.
Okay, you got to make sure you're on mute.
Okay, so it's not my responsibility to refill again for my client, right?
No, you should make them sign that area if you have access to the lease, that they understand English or Spanish. But I would say 99.9% of the time it doesn't happen.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, let me see. Demir,
Yes,
how long you been practicing?
3 months.
3 months. Ooh. No, I want somebody with a little bit longer.
I already have 3 leases.
I
So,
see a Tanya Robotham. Tanya, how long have you been practicing real estate?
Hi, 4 years.
Okay, can I pick on you for this section of the class?
Yes.
Okay. So I wanted you to look at this first 2 sections. We don't worry about the next sections because it's not the point of the class at this point in time. What I want to know is if you are a tenant's agent and you receive this lease like this with these 2 sections, security deposit and advanced rent, is this something that you would allow your tenant to sign?
What is the security deposit based on? Like it's just double the
So,
first month?
rent. Usually you have usually 2 choices, first, last, and security, or first and 2 securities,
Oh, okay.
right?
Okay. Well, that's the usual thing I see. So
You're okay with this?
Advance.
Okay. So let's ask Demir, because Demir is a new guy. Demir, what office are you from, or where are you from?
Miramar?
Miramar, okay. So Demir, let's say you're the tenant, and Tanya here sent you this lease to sign. You're gonna move in on October 1st, and it says here you have a $4,000 security deposit and a $2,000 first month rent. What do you think? You good to go? You sign this because Tanya says yes or no?
So they are asking, actually, the first month should be paid when I move in, the move-in date, right?
First month is
Not in
paid as
advance.
an offer. Usually, so you offered to rent out that place, you gave a $2,000 not a secure, but good faith deposit, and you're agreeing to pay $2,000 a month. And the owner is asking for a $4,000 security deposit.
Yeah, doesn't look bad
Doesn't
to
look good.
me.
Okay, perfect. So, Demir, today you sign this. Tanya, you receive it. You send it back to me. Let's assume that I am the listing agent. And then tomorrow I call you and I say, Tanya, I need the $4,000. When are you going to give it to me?
Oh, I see what you mean. It should be when they move in. That they get the first month.
Right. So what do you see there? It says upon signing the lease, right?
Right.
Now, 99.9% of the realtors don't see this signing on the lease, even though it's written in black and white right here.
Yes.
Right. So this has happened to me. I told an agent not to make the lease like this, and he did it anyway. He sent it off. I called the agent and I said, I'm looking for the money. I think it was $5,000 in this case. And the agent says, no, that's due at move-in. And I said, according to the lease, it's due at signing of the lease. She signed the lease yesterday. The owner wants his money. She says, no, I'm not going to give it to the owner until we do the move-in. And so I tell her, you're in breach of contract. And she says, no, this is always due at move-in. I go, I understand it's always due at move-in, but not according to the lease that you signed. Okay. So now Demir has to give $4,000 directly to an owner. Let's talk about some owners who are very good about not following the rules. Number one, the money should be put in a separate bank account. Number two, they're not allowed to use the money at all. Number three, that owner might be wanting to pay his mortgage, or in some cases, I've seen owners take the money to make repairs to the property so they can rent it out on October 1st. Okay, you're laughing, but the truth is that that's what happens. So now we're in trouble because Demir applies. Now, Demir wasn't a very good tenant either, because Demir didn't tell you that he is actually an ex-con, and he just got out of jail a year ago, and he has a lot of felonies in his record, and the association didn't approve him. Demir, you're a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So Demir now gets denied by the association and says, I want my money back. I want my $2,000 and I want my $4,000. But the owner already spent the money. And so now Demir has to hire an attorney, spend maybe $500, $1,000, $1,500 to get his $4,000 back if the owner doesn't give it back. Just because Tanya allowed him to pay the money and sign a lease that says due upon signing the lease.
Oh boy. Okay.
Right? And I tell you that 99.9% of all realtors do this. Very few ever see signing a lease. And you also see right here, first and last month rent. It also says due upon signing the lease. That means that even if they used $2,000 here and they used $2,000 here for last month rent, they would still have to pay $4,000 directly to the owner. Okay, wouldn't be because $4,000 shouldn't be exchanged for the keys? Well, yes, that's the norm. However, it's not what's written in the lease. Okay, that's what Marivallo is asking on the chat. So I'm answering. The lease says very clearly signing of lease. So whenever that lease is signed, it has nothing to do with moving. So this is what I recommend. Next section here. Security deposit due at move in. I don't put any dates on that. The reason why I don't put any dates is because some associations are very good about doing their application process very fast, and some are very bad about it and they're very slow, and you're gonna have to change a date if you put a very specific date. I'm not asking, I usually write it on the on other. Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm sorry, I misunderstood it. I took it as a question. Okay, so we're very clear about this. Here's another option too. Let's say there is a last month, then I would say security deposit and then a $2,000 last month rent due at move-in. Any questions about this? Did you learn something new today, Tanya?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, I did. It's just that I didn't read properly. The signing the lease, upon signing the lease. Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
be very careful. Thank you.
So now this is one of the areas that I'm going to show you. There's a big difference between a condo lease and a single family home lease. In a single family home lease, you can write in the areas that you want signing of lease or move in. You can put dates if you want. I don't recommend it. But certainly I feel that the condo lease is very poorly written because it allows for mistakes to happen very easily, where they should change it to like what it shows here in the single family home. Unfortunately, there are lawyers that get paid very good money to write these things, but I don't think they did a good job. All right, so let's talk about collecting the initial deposit. So the process of getting a tenant, going out to look at properties, qualifying them, and then finding a nice place that they want to make an offer. We have to understand that we're the professionals. And as professionals, we understand the position that we hold, the vocabulary that we're supposed to use, and the laws that apply to us. When these tenants go out and shop for a place to live, they're always looking at rental communities and single family homes or condos that are owned by owners. When they go to the rental community is going to ask them for a security deposit to place on hold, to have them apply to the process and use that unit. When they come to us, they cannot say security deposit because what we're receiving is a good faith deposit. We're not receiving a security deposit. A security deposit is meant for damages to the property. We're going to receive something called a good faith deposit, or how we always change the money to first month's rent. So when you get a check, please make sure that you put good faith deposit or first month's rent. If my commission is 10%, can I take my commission from the security deposit or last month's rent? Demir, you're a new guy. What do you say?
I'm thinking.
You're thinking, how do I get 10%?
I think I can get from the commission from the deposit check.
The security deposit and the last month's rent?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So you're one of those people that wants a new home provided by the government, 6x6 cell, no view?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so the laws or the statutes that protect the tenants and the owners say very clearly that the monies can only be used for what they're designated for. Okay, when we're talking about escrow monies, last month is an escrowed money, security deposit and an escrow money. Security deposit, we already established it for damages. The last month rent is for the last month. When does the last month become due? It becomes due at the last month. So there's no way to touch those funds. Those funds are due at the last month on the 12th month of the lease. So the answer to my question is no. And we find realtors that will take money out and use it to pay their commission. They will use it to pay transaction fees. Kai's has a $75 transaction fee. So you cannot use those funds for that. Now, for those who want to make 10% on a rental listing, this is what I learned from Jason Papas. And Jason Papas' pitch is this. Mr. and Mrs. Owner, I have 2 commission structures. The first one is a 10% commission. I will come personally to every single showing. I will walk the property with the tenants and the realtor. I will show them the great benefits to your property. And if they decide to move forward, then I will work with them directly to do so. The second option I have is 1 month. In the 1 month commission, I will put a lock on the door. In the case of the 10%, I will not put a lock on the door. And this lock will be used by a realtor to be able to access the property, show the property, but they won't be able to show it as well as I can because I know your property much better. Which one would you like? Now, if it's something that's close to your office, highly recommend doing something like that. If your office is in Miami Lakes and you're going to show the property in Homestead, I think that's very hard to do and unrealistic. If you can still get 10% and not say all that stuff, then good for you. But that's just one way to get 10%. So pet fee versus pet deposit. I do recommend having a pet fee and a pet deposit. So if you're normally charging $300 for a pet deposit, I would change half of it to pet fee, $150, and then the other $150 for a pet deposit. There is no dog or cat or animal that doesn't shed some kind of fur, pee, poop, or vomit. And the air conditioning unit also takes a hit, especially with cats and dogs that have a lot of hair. And eventually that needs to get cleaned. And over the span of maybe 2 to 3 tenants, the $150 that the owner collects, it will help minimize the cost that that owner has towards those charges. Make sure you collect the proper funds. This is the check that I talked about, making sure that it is clearly designated for what it is. And remember that the money that we get serves 3 different purposes. I like to say it's a butterfly. The good faith deposit is the caterpillar. The first month is the cocoon. And the commission is the butterfly when it comes out of the cocoon because it's so beautiful that you got paid your commission. Correct? You guys all like commissions. Any questions before I start partial rent?
Mark,
Okay.
this is more of a comment because I'm not sure if everybody gets it. That when you get that good faith / first month that you're going to put in escrow with whoever your manager is in your office, that is usually where the commission is going to come out of. And if there's any additional, then you're going to tell your landlord, you need to write an extra check for $2,000 to cover the rest of the commission to the Kai's company escrow. And it goes there.
So yes, let's use the example of $1,000. Let's say rent is $1,000. This is me dreaming, so don't worry, it's La La Land. $1,000 times 12 is $12,000. 10% of $12,000 is $1,200. So on a 10% commission would be $1,200. On a 1 month commission, it would be $1,000. So obviously you make more money. Essentially, you make $200 for every $1,000 extra. Now, you need to be very good at communicating with your owner. You say, Mr. Owner, today we signed a listing agreement, and this listing agreement says I get paid a 10% commission. When we find a tenant, they're going to sign a lease, and you're going to sign it too. And I will establish what the difference is between 1 month, which is what we'll receive at the office, to the 10%. And you'll need to send me a check for that difference, including an additional $75 for my transaction fee, if you charge that as the realtor. And you communicate that to them. That way you do not need to try to take it out of the last month or the security deposit, which is against the Florida statutes. Thank you very much, Tanya. I did forget to say that. So it's very helpful to have those reminders. Can't. Okay, so let's talk about partial rents. I don't like partial rents. but they're important to understand because you will have your owners who may say, collect the first 10 days, or I want my money on the first of every month, and you will need to prorate. I would say it maybe happens somewhere between 10 and 15% of the time, maybe less. But I have several owners who want to get paid on the first. They don't want to be looking for the money on the 15th, on the 20th, and the 30th, especially if they're commercial, right? The commercial units want all their payments on the first. And I have one complex that has 55 units. It's all commercial, and the owner wants his rent on the first of the month. So it does happen. Now, I want you guys to understand that when you prorate rent, you are prorating the first month in most cases. When you're prorating the first month, it means that you're receiving a portion of the rental rate. If we have a 15-day proration on $1,000 rent, we're receiving $500 for the first month. Now, I just taught you guys a question, the first one right here. Can I take money from security deposit or last month rent? No. But we just established that in this example, half of the rate will be collected as the first month's rent, meaning you will not be able to complete your commission. So my goal today is to teach you how to complete your commission so that you have a full first month and the second month is prorated. So it would look like this, because I think visually this helps people more than what it says in the actual lease. We're going to collect the first month. The first month is the 16th through the 15th. The second month will be the prorated month. So during the second month, the tenant will pay $1,000, which was originally where this $2,000 was. So all we did was swap the month that they pay the prorated amount. So in the first month, they pay first month $2,000, second month $2,000, and security deposit. That's your 3 months. That means you've collected 3 months in the beginning, and all you did was swap the first month and the second month for the proration. If you do this, you have to remember that at the end, there is also half a month because the month finishes on the 15th for this tenant, and they prepaid February 16th through March 15th. So there is a proration. Now, what I've done for you guys is I created something. This is one of the website links that I gave you guys in the beginning of the class, savvypm.org. And there is a rent calculator. And this rent calculator, you will prorate the second month if you want. You can prorate the first month if you want by switching it. If the rent is $2,000 a month, the tenant, Mark, we got Tanya right there in front of me. We put the address and the starting date. We can put September 15th or 16th. Let's say the 16th. You can say calculate, and it'll break down the payments for you automatically and when they're supposed to pay it. And it shows here that your allowable commission is $2,000. And you can go so far as to printing this schedule of payments. So no need to figure out the calculated days and all that kind of stuff, because I've done it for you already. If you want to do the first month, we can go back to this. Tanya. I'm going to do the same 16th. Calculate. Oh, I forgot to do it. First month. Calculate. You can see your allowable commission is $1,000. So this is what we're trying to avoid in making sure that you don't prorate the first month, because the first month in here is September, the second month is October, and the reality is that there's 13 months, calendar months in there, right? And so hopefully this helps you do that process. And all you're doing is filling in the lease here properly. In this case, the lease starts March 16th, so the second month is getting prorated at $1,000. How many people did I lose? Hope none.
So does it always have to be from first day of the month to first day of the month?
Only if the tenant wants it to be on the first of every month. If you
But
could
it's
get
also
away with it-
possible like paying each 15th of the month, right? So it's possible from 15th to 15th, for example, the payment.
anything is possible, you just have to know how to prorate it out the proper way. Or if the owner is willing to receive the payment on the 15th of every month, that would be the easiest thing to do, and it's the most common thing to do. But when you start getting into commercial, when you start getting into owners who have multiple properties, like 20, 30, and 40 properties, they want the rent on the first of every month
Okay,
for accounting purposes.
okay,
Okay, so
okay.
right now, my biggest goal is number one, understanding prorated rent. And number two, that you understand that if you prorate the first month, you cannot get your commission because you did not charge a full month of funds. And you're gonna have to wait until the owner sends you money unless you communicate it very well. Okay? All right, notices. Let's see here. There's a Luz A. Velis, maybe, or Lusa Velis. Are you on the call? Can you hear me? Okay, Lusa, are you able to speak with me?
Yes, okay. I
Hi,
am.
Lusa. How long you been doing real estate?
Huh. 3 months.
3 months. Perfect.
No.
You're the victim that I want. It's okay if you get it wrong, because even people who've been around for 20 years get it wrong. Okay.
Okay.
So my question to you, right, says notices. Would you put your name here as the owner's realtor or agent?
Hmm. Oh my God.
I put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
The
It's-
owner.
It says owner, yeah, landlord's agent right here. Are you the landlord's agent? Would you put your name here?
No.
No? Okay, why?
Mm. Why not? Maybe. Mm, that-
Are you not the landlord's agent?
yes.
Okay, it says, I'm sorry, is it Luz Veles? Is it Luz Veles?
Luz Abeles, yes.
Luz Veles, okay, Luz
But
Veles.
I'm not sure, but I believe no, because the agent of lender, no, the
The landlord, the owner?
exactly.
Okay. All right. So there are agents out there who believe that they should put their name here, especially new ones, because they say, oh, I'm the landlord's agent, but then they don't read the rest. And the rest says very clearly, all notices to the landlord and all lease payments must be sent to the landlord's agent at the address. Now, I'm assuming that you don't receive rent payments, right? Correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so in that case there, then that's why your name would not apply there, because you don't receive payments for the owner.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
there are also some agents that will put a bank account number here. If you are the tenant's agent and you get a lease that says Bank of America account number XYZ, you shouldn't do that, because it asks for a specific address. And as a tenant's agent, your job is to protect the tenant. And what does it says here? The tenant, all notices to the tenant shall be given certified mail, and then all landlord notices shall be given by the tenant written notice. Okay, so there's no way for you to send a letter on behalf of a tenant to an owner if it has a Bank of America account, because Bank of America will not receive a letter, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we don't want to put on that, and I want to make sure you guys understand that just because it says agent, there's insurance agents, right? There's customs agents. There's a lot of kind of agents out there, travel agents. Just because it says agent doesn't mean that you're the real estate agent or that this kind of agent represents the owner. This landlord's agent represents the owner in his business transactions. So I like to tell some stories when I go through this class so that people can understand the importance of the difference. There is a real estate agent for Kai's in the north that went to a property that went to receive the keys from the tenant. She walked around with the tenant and said, "Oh, you have damages here. These damages are like $500. Went around some more damages, $600, $500, $2,000, whatever the numbers were. She was talking with the tenant and saying how much those damages cost. She sent the information to the owner. The owner got the information and used the tenant's security deposit to pay for the damages. The tenant now became very upset. He says, "I can't believe he used all my security deposit to pay for those damages that did not apply to me." He hired an attorney, and the attorney put in the names of 3 different people to sue. Kai's, because Kai's has the deepest pockets and represents the realtor, and the owner. And the reason for using the realtor is that the realtor acted as an agent of the owner in the owner's losses and profits of his investment property. Now, if you guys all look at the contracts that you signed with Kai's, you will see that it doesn't say anything about you taking keys from a tenant and conducting walkthroughs and determining losses in terms of expenses by a tenant, because with your scope of work or the contract that you have with Kai's, that's not included, meaning that your insurance that you pay for errors and omissions doesn't cover you for that. So you have to be very careful about the things that you do as a real estate agent that are not within your scope of work. Another agent in Aventura went through a process of hiring a painter. The painter went into the unit in Aventura, started painting, dropped the paint on tile. The tile was travertine tile, which has a lot of holes. And because the realtor hired the painter, the owner held the realtor responsible for the damage to the tile, because the agent was acting as an agent to the owner and not doing their scope of work or their contracted responsibilities of finding a tenant, making sure the tenant is qualified, creating a lease, and doing the move-in process. That's what your job is. Finding painters, handyman, AC unit, repair people, all those things are not within your scope of work. Collecting rent is not within your scope of work. So do be very careful about what you do when you're actively doing things within the property. Questions? No questions there. Okay, very good. It's illegal for an agent to collect payment directly. FREC requires that the broker collect all funds. What does that mean to you guys? It means that you shouldn't be collecting any funds in your name. All the funds that are supposed to be due to Kai's, the Kai's company or Kai's property management, are paid to the companies directly. They should not go in your name, right? We just talked about responsibility. If you put your name in there as the responsible party for the property, they may ask you for taxes. Every foreign owner is supposed to pay 30% for their taxes of rent collected. So if they collect $1,000 of rent, they're supposed to pay $150 every month to the IRS. If you're the one picking up the checks and depositing money, you can be held responsible for those funds. If something were to happen and you're named in there, please be careful. Security deposit, we just talked about. And the broker. So whoever is your office broker, Seal, Ellie, Carlos, Victor, Alex, Albert, all these people, Patricia, can be held responsible because they're your mom and dad. They're the ones responsible for to make sure that you're doing your job the right way. And if you're doing something wrong, they could be fined, they could be sanctioned, they could also get a new home in some cases if they're found to be culpable. So please make sure that you're not doing what you're not supposed to be doing. This is the actual law. And it's very interesting because the actual law talks about rental property management agreement, rental or lease agreement, or any other written or verbal agreement. The minute you verbally agree to find a painter, the minute you verbally pass on information about costs, you're engaging the broker. Why? Because every single one of your emails comes from the Kai's company. And the owner, unfortunately, doesn't realize that the Kai's company is not the same as you working on the side doing the things that you want to do. And there's a lot of times that people don't know that we're different from Kai's property management to the Kai's company. We have people wiring money to the Kai's company for payment to rent on our side. So they don't know any better. And all they know is they see the email and they say Luz Aveles or Demir or Tanya or Arturo or Margaret are my property managers because they're the ones that help me with the repairs on the property, even though you're not getting paid. Questions before I move on there? No? Let's see, no questions here. Okay. All right, very good. So this is probably the most misunderstood section within the lease. It's the one that people never know how to fill out. Lusa Bellis, can I pick on you some more?
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, it's a great way to learn, trust me.
Okay. I hope.
You hope. All right. So how many leases have you done in your life? Zero, probably. That's what it
Zero.
was. Zero.
Exactly.
You're the perfect person because this is the best way to learn. You'll never forget. And 20 years down the road, when you're a master at this, you're going to say, Mark taught me. Okay, so first, Lusa Veles.
Mm-hmm.
There is no right answer to this section. The right answer is what you negotiate with the other realtor.
Okay.
This is all negotiation. So if you're a great negotiator, if you're great at convincing people, you're going to come out ahead. If you're not, then you might come out behind. But at the end of the day, this is all subject to negotiation. So there is no right answer. Are there better answers? Yes, there are better answers. Please keep in mind that the check marks that I have there are only for educational purpose, and they do not mean my confirmation that it's the right place to put it in. Okay? So if you're copying this and saying, oh, Mark says smoke detectors tenant, I'm not saying that. Okay? So let's talk about that. What do you feel about a tenant being responsible for smoke detectors?
No, it's the landlord.
Why?
Why? My God, because
A lot of this is common knowledge, okay? It's not because there's a right answer, but think about it. If you were an owner or if you were a tenant, why would you try to convince me that the owner should have smoke detectors?
I think because the item is I don't know how to explain.
Say in
The
Spanish,
smoke detector is the property, no is the
okay, it's their
It's the
property, they should take care of it.
exactly.
Okay, so Luz Aveles, I'm sleeping at 2 o'clock in the morning and the machine starts to beep like crazy and it's driving me crazy and I gotta go to the airport at 6 o'clock in the morning and I take off the smoke detector. And now you're the owner and you come in and you see that I took off the smoke detector. And you're telling me that the owner should be responsible for it when the tenant took it off? I'm playing devil's advocate, right?
But yes.
So
Yeah.
as an owner, do you want to pay for that? You want to pay to have the handyman come over with his ladder, charge you 60, 70, 80, $90 to come over and do that, to put the smoke detector back up? Remember, you
Really?
said owner.
Yes, I think so. Yes, it's the landlord
You
because
think
it's
we'll pay the $90 to come back and put it there? If you were the owner, you would pay the $90 to have a handyman come out with a ladder to put back the smoke detector?
Oh my God. Pues, I don't know.
You don't know. Okay. So if we're looking at it from that point of view, the reality is that the tenant would still be responsible because they pulled down something that they should have left up,
Oh, okay.
right? So now, instead of being a maintenance issue, because the maintenance issue would have been Mr. Owner, and here's the other part so you understand. Mr. Owner, the smoke detector's beeping, I need you to come fix it. You live in Venezuela, and now you have to find somebody to go and change a battery in a smoke detector. The battery costs, let's say, $2. Based on the way that this lease is written right now. It's not a good position to be, because why do you want to send somebody for $90 as a handyman to go change a battery that's $2? Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
smoke-
but
the
in
smoke-
general, a lot of things of the property is not necessarily responsibility of landlord, or yes, or depend.
it depends on what you negotiate here,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
I would put the smoke detector on the owner, and I would make sure that the owner, when they inspect the property before going, they've tested the batteries. They may even want to change all the batteries and making sure that everything's working the right way so that they can certify that things are okay. I would even say that you want to make sure that the batteries are, not the batteries, the smoke detectors are less than 10 years old. If you look at a lot of condos, for example, the fire department wants you to certify as an owner that all the smoke detectors are working condition and that they're less than 10 years old. Okay.
Okay.
So let's talk about the next one. Extermination of rats, mice, roaches, ants, wood destroying organisms, and bed bugs. Tenant or owner?
Maybe yes, tenant.
Tenant, 100%. Okay. So let's imagine that you're the tenant. You moved into the place 2 months ago, and you call me, the property manager, and you say, Mark, I have termites. And I look at the lease and I tell you, you have to call the termite company to take care of it. And you call the termite company says it's $2,000 to take out all the termites and kill them. What do you tell me?
Wow.
Are you happy with me or the owner right now? No, right?
No.
So does everybody agree that she would have to pay the $2,000, or does anybody here disagree with that one? Help her out for a second. Somebody
No.
chime in.
I think the landlord should
Why do
be
you think the landlord?
responsible.
Who said that? Tanya. Okay, Tanya. Why?
Yeah,
The landlord.
but it's a little blurry, because if it's rats and roaches that are caused by the tenants, being nasty, then I can understand the tenant being responsible. But for termites, that's gonna affect the structure of the apartment and the building in
Okay.
the line. So based on that,
Okay, but it says very clearly here, wood destroying organisms. That includes termites,
termites, right?
carpenter ants,
What-
carpenter bees, mold, because mold is a wood destroying organism.
I mean, even when you live on a condo, the condo management or association provides the pest control.
Okay,
So based on that, I'm thinking the same thing. It would be the owner who
okay.
is responsible.
But, so let's talk about that for a second. The Florida Supreme Court, the judges and attorneys and everybody else who wrote this lease agreed that there's two choices here. One for the landlord and one for the tenant,
Oh, yeah, true.
right? So you're saying the owner should take care of it because structure, the state of Florida, the Supreme Court, because if you look at the bottom, it says, you know, approved by the Supreme Court, they said that a tenant could possibly pay for wood destroying organisms.
Okay.
Okay. But does anybody else agree or disagree with what I said, that she needs to pay the $2,000 for the termite control? Nobody wants to help her out?
Hi, Mark.
Hello, who's this? Monica Guzman, Aventura, how are you?
Good, thank you. I always struggle with this in the leases. I do leases for investors, but since they are condos, I make them, I mean, they have to take care of the unit in order to, you know, charge a good rent. So I always make it responsible for the, you know, like if something happened, the mice and everything, because sometimes you don't know what's going on inside, and tenants, if it's something extreme, the tenant has to pay extra, but I don't know how to address, and I have that problem before in the past.
The answer is right here on the page that I'm showing you. So the bigger
don't-
question here is, does everybody agree that she has to pay the $2,000?
No, okay, can I interject?
Tanya, yes. Mhm.
Yes, I
No.
think that it is the tenant's responsibility. But if, let's say that what you said happened, that there's wood destroying organisms and there's a $2,000 charge, then the landlord would be responsible for that. But it's going to be above whatever
150. Yeah.
amount you stipulate.
Who said
In the
150?
Yeah, Tanya, I see it at the bottom. It says anything above 150 is the
Right.
landlord's responsibility.
Right.
So now we're looking at a bigger picture because everybody's been focused on that first line or second line. And I wanted to see how well people knew the lease. And it's very important that as professional realtors, we begin to read the lease and understand all parts of it. And I think that because sometimes we don't write leases enough, people forget. If you don't use it, you lose it. So at the very bottom, it says major maintenance and major replacement means a repair or replacement that costs more than $150. Now, this $150, I want you guys to see what it says right here in this line, because this is a line that's missed. And Monica, this will answer your question. And Luz Taveras, this will answer your question. Tenant's responsibility, if any indicated above, meaning anything checked for tenants, shall not include major maintenance or major replacement of equipment. The definition of major maintenance or major replacement is major replacement means repairs that cost more than $150. So Lusavelas, Tanya, who said $150 or more, is correct, because now at $2,000, the owner pays 100% of the cost. If the pest control man came in and said the fee to take out the termites is $140, Lusavelas would pay it. If he says it's $149.99, Lusavelas would pay for it. The minute it becomes $150, the owner becomes responsible 100%. So what does that mean? Everything on the right side is up to $150. If it's more than $150, all of it is 100% the owner. Tenant or landlord checked off. And this is the big misunderstanding. It's an either or, it's not both. It's not a copay. There are agents out there who say, no, you have to pay $150 and then the owner pays the rest. The way this contract is written right now, it is not a copay. It's an either or. Is that helpful, Monica?
In that case, I'm going to tell you an scenario. I rent a unit on the beach. It was furnished, and they did a special cleaning. And it was fine. And then the tenant moved in, and they said that they had bed bugs. the landlord said, oh, I delivered the unit clean and I did a professional cleaning. It's not a bed bug, so everything was new. So in that case, the tenant has to still pay the 150.
So in general, for the first 10, 15, 20 days, depending on your owner, it would be good to establish some kind of guidelines. Okay, so that it's very clear. The owner will be responsible within that period of time, unless it's very obvious that the owner or the owner can prove that the tenant did it.
Mhm.
Very hard to prove if it's in the first couple of days. There's no way to do it. So in this case here, I think that the owner might have to pay for it.
Okay, yeah, that was my recommendation. So he needs to pay was the first week or two, and because it's going to be better for the tenant. Tenant is going to pay 5 months good price rent. So that was, like something that needs to be done. Okay, thank you.
All right, Luceveles, you ready to go forward? I got some more for you.
Oh my God.
Let's talk about running water. Who pays for the water, Luceveles?
Running water.
Uh-huh.
Mm, mhm.
Let's get Tanya Robotham to help you out.
The tenant.
En Spanish es el agua pública.
El agua pública?
Yeah.
Is it public water, like
Yes.
water that comes from the city?
Mm.
This is like the water bill. Is this the water bill?
Sí, es el agua.
Oh,
Tanya, do you agree? Is this the water bill?
yeah, yes, that's the water bill.
Okay. Does anybody disagree with Tanya and Luceveles?
I think it's usually the landlord because in most condos, depends on the condo.
Yeah.
So if the condo includes the water, then it's truly landlord because the
Okay.
tenant's not paying for the water. So it's going to depend. Some
Yeah.
condos have you pay for the water, so that's going to depend.
Okay. Anybody else agree or disagree?
For now, I have to be careful with that because there's a lot of rental communities, new communities, and they pay commissions because I already went to preview some of them. And for now on, the tenant has to pay. So it's your responsibility to tell the tenant, tell them before they sign that they need to start paying water. That's something new.
Okay. Anybody else agree or disagree?
I think we have to discuss with the landlords. Some units, the water is included, some units not, but
Okay.
mainly it's included.
So I've heard from about 5 or 6 people out of 21. Anybody else disagree or agree?
The water, the sewer is mainly included to the rent.
Okay.
That's not the utility. That's not the utility. I think that this is the features.
Who said that?
Plumbing or
Correct.
Who said that? What gentleman?
Jorge Aguilar from Victor Sunset.
Sunset. All right, Mr. Sunset. I like you a lot.
Thank you.
I want everybody to understand very clearly. This section says maintenance. What in your mind makes you think that maintenance has to do with utilities? Number one. Number two, if you read the lease, it doesn't matter which lease it is, the single family home or the condo. The first one is a condo with an X. It says utilities. And this number 9, utilities is single family home. Why would there be a separate section for utilities if utilities is this here? The reason being is because it has nothing to do with utilities in a section. Right here, this section has to do with the pipes, allowing water to run through the pipes correctly so that they come out of the faucet. And this talks about the maintenance of those pipes within the unit and whether or not the tenant has to pay for it or the owner has to pay for it. And a lot of agents misunderstand that and believe that the running water has to do with utilities, and it doesn't. And so sometimes agents get in trouble because then they have to pay for the water bill. There might be somebody on here who was paid for a water bill thinking that they checked off for the tenant and left on the landlord, and the landlord got upset, and then they end up paying for those utilities. So this has nothing to do with usage of water. This is every single pipe working so that the water comes out of the faucet correctly. Now, Lusavelis, I haven't forgotten about you. She went away. She dropped off.
I think
come-
the
Uh,
tenant.
You think the tenant? Okay.
Yes.
Why do you think the tenant? Why should the tenant be responsible for the pipes and the tubes inside the unit?
No, but the tubes, no. But the use of the water.
Okay, I'm gonna say it in Spanish for you really quickly so that we make sure that we're on the same page. Yo acabo de mostrar dos secciones, este de aquí
Ujú.
y este de aquí. Este de aquí habla del uso de agua, electricidad y otros temas,
Ah, ok.
y hay una sección por separado que habla de eso. Si hay una sección separada por eso, quiere decir que esta sección no tiene nada que ver con el uso de agua. Esto es los tubos que
Ah,
hagan que el
structure.
agua corre por los tubos bien y sale por las llaves.
Ah, okay, sorry, no, who pays the landlord?
Why?
Because the landlord is the owner of the property, he will, or he must, pues, como garantizar el perfecto estado de la propiedad. I
Okay.
don't know how to say in English.
So Lusavelis is saying that the owner should guarantee that the property works
Perfect.
in the proper way. But when he turns over the property the proper way, everything's working fine. And then 6 months down the road, there's a leaky faucet or there's a leaky toilet, and you're saying that the owner has to pay for it, even though he's not the one flushing all the time.
But maybe it's the same who told before, the tenant respond until 150.
Yeah.
And after that,
Okay.
it's responsibility of landlord.
So I want to take that point right there because this is my day-to-day, right? Do you think that an owner wants you to call every time a $6, $7, $10, 20 item dollar needs fixing in your unit?
No,
No,
no.
right? The little lever on the toilet, it costs $5, $6, $7 in most cases for the cheap ones, unless you have a fancy toilet. YouTube will teach you how to change it. Most men and a lot of women nowadays can change it, right? So why as an owner would you want a tenant to call you for every little thing? What about I'm going to tell you a story in my house. My wife has a lot of creams and all this makeup and stuff, and she puts it underneath the sink and she closes the drawer, but then sometimes the bottle is too big and it hits the pipe. And then she pulls it out, she fixes it, go back, and then another day, another cream goes in, she closes it and she hits the pipe. Well, if you hit that pipe enough times, that pipe is going to leak. And you want the tenant to be responsible for that. But those types of things are very hard to prove as an owner. So if you have the tenant responsible for the first 150, then all those little tiny things that the tenant has to fix, you're going to make them fix it. If they don't fix it, then you can charge them for it because they're the ones that caused it. They're the ones using it all the time. They're the ones pushing the button. We don't know this, but Luz Verdes might have a son who is 5 years old and he loves flushing the toilet with a hammer. And he keeps on hitting and hitting and it finally breaks. We don't know how owners use it. Extermination of rats, mice, and cockroaches. Luz Verdes loves coffee, but when she makes her coffee, she spills sugar all over the place. And now she has a bunch of roaches and she has a bunch of ants. Why would the owner want to be responsible for that? Make the tenant responsible for the little things, but the owner should be responsible for the big things, the big expenditures. But the little stuff, I don't want to get a call every single time, and I'm sure you guys don't. So if we follow the line here, hot water means that the hot water heater makes hot water. The furniture is usually the tenant, but in some cases there might be furniture from the landlord. Does a landlord want to clean and fix every little piece of a furniture? No. But if it's over 150, they will do it. Heating and air conditioning filters. What about the water filter for the refrigerator? Those things cost $50 more or less to get. They're expensive. Does the owner want to find a replacement, have it taken to the property, return, take out the old one, put the new one in? No. So why not make the tenant responsible for those filters? So that 150 mark is a nice little barrier to protect the owner from the little things. So when I look at this thing, and if I'm a realtor representing the owner, I would check off all of these, and I would get a fight from all the realtors saying there's no way they're paying for a refrigerator. There's no way they're going to pay for a stove. That I'm not paying for all those things, because they don't understand the 150 either or. 150 is the tenant for all these on the tenant side, and if it's more than that, then the owner pays 100%. I like to use this one right here. All repairs under 150 and the first 150 of all repairs. That means that they pay a copay now. So that $2,000 example, the tenant would pay 150 and the owner would pay 1850. And this is something that I use on a consistent basis so that the tenant doesn't call me for every little thing. And because of natural normal wear and tear of things break as they get older. This helps offset the cost to owners. So if you represent the owner, then this is something that they would really love, because now they're paying a lot less in repairs, and they're making the tenant somewhat responsible for those repairs, because now it's a copay of funds. And here's the water filter. The water filter would still be covered because anything under 150 is still the tenant's responsibility. Okay. Questions there? We understand utilities now. That is a separate section. Everybody learned this. So just to remember, running water, plumbing is okay to make the water run. Hot water, water heats the water. Fixtures, doors, handles, lights, light bulbs, flushing lever, anything attached to a unit. Let's go back to that for a second. Look at fixtures. Most of the time, fixtures is checked on the landlord. A doorknob, I got called one time. The doorknob was loose. I went over there with a screwdriver. I turned the screwdriver a couple of times. The doorknob was tight and I walked away. But because the landlord was checked off, the landlord had to fix that. There's no way that you can tell me that a tenant cannot get a screwdriver and tighten the doorknob. Now, if they call me and say, Mark, I've tightened the doorknob 15 times and it gets loose every single time, then I would say, okay. But just to turn it, I don't want to go to turn the screws of a doorknob. I want to work smart, not hard, right? Left side, owner, 100% responsible. The right side, up to the 150. So if we go back, in this example, which is the traditional lease, left side, the owner pays 100%. Right side, the tenant pays up to the 150. If you do it this way, then it's the copay, like I said. Okay, service members. Anybody here serve our country, United States? Any service members? No? Okay. So if you have a service member, it's supposed to be checked off on the contract to lease. And when you get that, you got to run. You got to move as fast as possible, because you have 7 days to approve it as an owner and as an association. They must be active duty, and they will know if they are active duty. Okay. If you do not answer within those 7 days, they will be automatically approved, even for the association. If they decide to cancel their contract because they've been given orders, they must have orders. There is no penalty, no termination clause, no 2 months rent, no nothing. You have to allow them to leave. Okay. Any questions so far? No? Okay, very good. So, story. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I get a phone call. Owner says that his neighbors called him and advised him that the tenants have passed away. And he wanted us to find out what happened. So I called the property manager for the unit and I asked him to go take a look at the property. He goes over there to find out with the police. And yes, the tenants passed away due to an overdose of drugs. We obviously waited for the bodies to be removed. And then the owner said, please take out all the tenants' personal property so that I can rent it again. So we looked at the lease prepared by an agent and it looked just like this. And it says tenant must initial, not check mark, initial this little box. This is why I like to control my signing to make sure it gets initialed, because I make this a requirement for the following provisions to apply. And if we continue on, possession of the dwelling unit due to death of the last remaining tenant. So because this was not checked off, the owner was responsible to hold the property for 2 months. If the owner wanted to have the property removed, he would have to take it to storage, pay for storage, have the moving done, hold it for the 2 months, and then he could throw it away. Obviously, when the owner found out that he had to hold on to it for 2 months, he said, no, I don't want to follow that. And he had the property removed himself, and then we fired him for not following the laws. Reason being because we can be held responsible for 3 times rent and legal fees. And as an owner's agent, we didn't want to represent him anymore because he was breaking the law. So the most important thing that you got to make sure is that if you are going to allow another agent who doesn't know better to sign the document, you guys know better. You guys know more than 99% of realtors right now. I guarantee it, 100% confident. I can pay you $1 million. You know more than most realtors, just with what you learned today. Get the initials, control the signing, control the initials, and get this initial because it's not a big deal. You don't want to be the same position as that realtor where the owner's upset because he can't remove the property legally, and you're the one that did it. Again, it's written in black and white right here. I like to say this a lot. It's written for you guys to understand. It's not that hard of a jargon to say, oh, that's a bunch of legal jargon. No. Possession of the dwelling, which we know is a house unit due to the death of the last remaining tenant. The last tenant in place. Now, this does not, the landlord shall not be liable or responsible, right, for the storage or disposition of the tenant's personal property. Just for those little initials. If you don't get it signed, then the owner will be responsible and will have to hold it for 2 months. And then he will lose money. And then he'll remember you. Okay. So questions there about the actual lease, because that's the full lease class. I just have some Kai's property management information.
Can you go back to the slide about service members?
Right here.
Yes, I just wanted to see the bullet points. Okay. Okay, thanks.
I'm going to show you in a minute where you can get all this stuff and you have it 24/7. So don't go away. Let's talk about property management for a second. So I work with Kai's Property Management, as I told you guys in the beginning. We do pay up to $250 for every contract that you give us. So an example is we close a property at 10%, you will get $250. If for some reason we close a property at 5%, usually that's because there's multiple properties, like 20, 30, and 40 properties. So let's say we close it at 5%, that is 50% of the 10%. 50% of the 250 is 125. So let's say there's 10 properties, you get 10 times 125, that's $1,250 that you make for referring business over to us. We provide listing support, meaning we will look at your leases. We will help you making sure that your lease is correct. We'll also go with you on listing appointments for owners who might be thinking about putting the property on the market. I went with one agent one time to a listing appointment, and she was so new that when the owner asked her how much she made in commission, she didn't know. And she did one of these things like this. She was looking at the owners. Let's say I'm looking straight at the camera, and all of a sudden she turns to me like this, and she looks at me like, what's the answer? And unfortunately, I'm a realtor too, and I understand the process, and I was able to explain the options to the owner. I just didn't like doing it because the reality is that that's her job and she should have been able to explain it. And the other thing is that some agents charge 10% and some agents charge 1 month. And I didn't want to say how much she would make on a deal because she's the one that's going to be doing the deal. But I gave the owner both the options, and obviously the owner chose the lesser of the two. She wasn't able to explain the value in the 10% in a way that the owner wanted to do it, number one, and they were longtime friends, so it became a normal 1 month. But we closed the deal in real estate, and we closed the deal in property management for that agent. So when I say listing support, I'm there to support you in making sure you get your deal done. Someone was asking a question, I think.
Si quieres, termínalo y me llamas porque
Mute. I'm muting you, Luz Avelas. Okay, lease preparation, which I just talked about too, that I'm going to help you making sure that your lease is properly filled out. So on Friday, I did a move-in. Move-in was for a lot and block association, and we found a condo lease. Now, while I understand, you know, why it happened, the agent received documents from the association saying it was a condo, but the documents also said that it was an HOA. The thing is that if you don't know the difference, the paperwork said that the property was managed under 720 Florida statute 720, and then it said it was a condo association. But if you know Florida statute 720 is for HOAs and 718 is for condo associations. So there was confusion there. You guys all have learned today that if you look for a lot and block, then you know it's an HOA or single family home. And if it says in common or undivided, then you know it's a condo association. We're prepping the homes and making sure the properties are ready to go. So painting, cleaning, organizing, fixing, that's all what we do. This is the biggest one. Kai's property management was assigned for a couple of reasons. We always know that one of the reasons is making money. That's just a guarantee out of life because most businesses started to make money. Number two, it was started to make sure that you have exclusivity. Okay, what does that mean? A lot of agents are scared to give their referrals out to people who are realtors that could steal their clients away from them. And that's what would happen a lot of times with property management. You would refer your business out to somebody who does property management. Eventually, they created a relationship with the owner, and then you lost your client because most of them are realtors. When Kai's property management was started, it was started with the intention of making sure that you never lose your client. There is a space in our system that says that you're the agent. When the owner wants to sell, we call you. When the owner wants to rent, we call you. When the tenant says they want to move and rent somewhere else or buy, we call you. Even if there was another agent involved, we call you so that you know. So we're always referring the business back to you. There was an owner who came to see us. She had 23 properties, and her husband had said, get rid of the properties. I don't want to handle them anymore. I don't want any more problems. I don't want headaches, or find somebody to take care of it. So we sat down with the agent at the office, and the owner explained all the things that we do and how we work and how we have everything online for them like a bank. And we closed the deal. On the way out, I will never forget it. The owner said to the agent, find me more properties because now I can handle them. And we started off with 23, and next week, I think we're closing on number 27. So she's grown 4 properties in that time of about 3 years. And so it works, and you guys will get more business because of it. We're your partners. We're here to work hand in hand with you. If you guys know me, Livia knows me, Tanya knows me. You know, there's several people on here that know me, that call me, and I am at your disposal to find out what you need and help you out. So there is a partnership for us to help you in that sense. Originally I'd showed you guys kpmfiles.com. So if you guys were at the beginning, you would have seen kpmfiles.com as important files, files for realtor use. So all of our marketing material is right here. Jeff covers Palm Beach, Martin County, and St. Martin County, Palm Beach, Miami-Dade, Broward. So if you guys are looking for something in Spanish and English, Spanish presentation right here. English presentation as well. PDF you can send out to your owners. A rental screening pamphlets, short-term rental management information, tenant credit boost information. Everything can be found here. The lease class presentation, the class that I gave today. You guys have access to this 24/7. All the information is for you guys there. Articles information, move out forms, renewal notice forms, service and emotional support animal information, third-party forms. Everything's in here for you guys to use whenever you want. Give me a buzz if you have questions or concerns. And I leave the floor open for the next 15 minutes or so for questions and answers. So either I'm really good or you guys are asleep.
Mark, I have a question for you.
Sure.
It is based on a recent case that I had. I know that you have a specific training on emotional support pets and all that, but it's just so I know how to tackle this. So I have a rental property. I'm listing a property for rent. So a tenant called me directly and without the realtor. And then she explained to me that she had a service dog and they wanted to apply. So showed the property and she sent me the documents for the rent. Turns out that the other applicant does not hold any driver license and he only has a US passport. But he's like someone, you know, of like 30 something. So I requested another type of ID because they needed it for the association application.
The passport was not sufficient?
Excuse me?
The passport was not sufficient, the US passport?
No, it was not sufficient. So they said they needed another ID to be able to do the background check. So two things happened. So I tried to do it with the passport, and then when I received the letter for the dog, for the pet, it turns out that it was not a service dog. It was an emotional support pet. So I questioned, I asked her, you said it was a service dog, so this document is not enough for a service dog. If it is a service, I need to have the specific certification of a service.
Why do you have a specific certification?
Well, because she said it was a service dog, but the letter I received, it was not a service pet. It was an emotional support pet.
So let's make sure we clarify some things. Number one, the documents provided by HUD are very specific about what you can and cannot ask for.
Correct.
So when you say you're going to ask for documents proving that it's a service animal, you may be breaking laws when you do that. So first off, I encourage everybody to grab the form from HUD and follow the form from HUD, which is what I teach, and that's what I'm going to be teaching next week on Monday. Number two,
correct.
Service animals can only be dogs, and dogs are traditionally something like a CNI dog, or let's say a dog that can smell that the person has a high or low of sugar, or some other special task that the dog can perform. An emotional support animal, or a support animal, because it could be more than just emotions, can also be given the exception. So you were saying that it was an emotional support animal, so it didn't qualify, but an emotional support animal can qualify as a reason to be accepted as a reasonable accommodation by a landlord. Now, the document that they provided, was it from a doctor?
Yeah, it was from a doctor in a different state, in another state, which I didn't, I didn't ask any details. It was just that the email was stating that because that community doesn't accept tenants to have pets. So the email said it was a service dog, but the letter I received was an emotional support pet. So I didn't.
So the association has to understand, and also realtors, an animal that's a service animal or a support animal is no longer considered a pet. If it's no longer considered a pet, it is not to be charged a pet fee, the pet deposit, and it doesn't follow pet guidelines because it's no longer a pet. It is now a tool like a wheelchair, a tool like muletas, crutches, a hammer. Okay? It is a tool now. And the letter from a doctor should be 99.9% of the time sufficient or enough for that association and or owner to accept that animal into the property. And they may be breaking laws by not accepting it. Especially since it was a doctor's note. Now, if you tell me that it was a certificate from an online resource, then that is not sufficient. But a doctor from a nurse, psychologist, pediatrician, therapist, ophthalmologist, whoever it is, if it's a doctor, you kind of have to accept it as what it is, whether you like it or not. And if you think about it, the application says, do you have a pet? They could technically say no, because it's not considered a pet by this law standard. Does that help?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, it's because the two things got together, and the fact that they didn't have any other documentation or any other type of ID, together with the fact that this was an online certificate. So they were like kind of like telling me that they were offended because they were being discriminated because they had this service animal, which the certificate didn't say was service. It was only an online certificate. But since the association needed a second ID, I was kind of uncomfortable and scared because I thought they were feeling that we were like discriminating the guy.
Yeah, so first off, the association is going to do what they want to do. And very few people ever push back. But the association is not you and it's not the owner. So if that happens, you shouldn't feel like that. But just make sure you be careful with those types of things because you can get yourself in trouble if you don't follow what the rules state. Come to my class next week and we can go over, obviously, that class.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? So I would greatly appreciate if you guys can go to Instagram to the class that I gave today. You'll see the same lease training class. That's under savvy.pm. I wonder why it's not going forward. Here, follow me. If you can, guys, put in some comments about the class if you liked it. So that in the future, maybe other people will take the class with me because I think everybody should take this class, but that's just my personal opinion. Thank you, everybody. You have a great day. You guys got all my contact information, so give me a buzz if you have questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Was
Thank
really
you.
useful.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Excellent class.
Great class, Mark. Thank you.